Okay, I'm gonna install a roof rack today. Should be a pretty simple install since it's like a just pop right into place. First you have to remove the little covers here, and once these covers are removed, we have screws and stuff like that for already in place for them to just pop down on, and the fittings should cover the holes completely. And so do that one on the side there. You got two little clips right here for these, and same thing there. So now we're going to look at what I've got in my box. So in my box I got 4 of the holders for the bars, and got 2 crossbars, a front and a rear crossbar. They're supposed to be marked so you get them in the right place, and the 4 holders for each crossbar. So I'm gonna take this out, get everything set up in place, and see what we need to do. The front bar was supposed to be marked, but it is not. As you can see, I got them sitting on a flat surface on the ladder, and you got one probably about 2-3 inches taller than the other. I'm gonna assume that's the back, but I'm gonna measure just to be sure, because I assume the back to be a little bit wider than the front. And you're basically gonna make these, put them on the support holders there first, and then put them in place at the back and at the front where the bolts just screw down in there. But here's what we got here on the supports. Crossbars. For the crossbar, you got a rubber gasket to stop you know, water and stuff from getting down in there, and sealing this hole off pretty good, and then that'll sit on top there and just basically seal the hole. And then you got the bars that go down onto the car itself to hold everything in place. Going to get started. I'll set up the camera so hopefully you can get a good angle of me working on it, and put them through the bracket holder. And then once we get them mounted to the bracket holder, we will tighten them down and get them set in place and mounted on the car itself. So what I didn't show about the 2 brackets, if you see, one has a slide in for adjustment, and one has a set bolt pattern to lock it in place. So where you're going to get the slide is on this end. So I've already put one of the slide types on here for adjustment, so I'm going to put this one on the other end of this bracket. So one of each on each end of the different brackets. So now I'm putting the ones on with the fixed end, not the sliding holes. So I'm going to tighten those good and tight. They're metal to metal, but it is aluminum, so you want to get them tight, but you don't want to strip them. But this is the side with the fixed holes, and the other end that I showed you in the first part is the sliding hole. So I'll make these good and tight. It's like an aluminum bracket and bolt. I mean, not the bolt, but the bracket. I think it's an aluminum metal, so I wouldn't put them too tight. And this is what I'm going to show you about putting the crossbars together. Thing you want to worry about is the alignment nipples. You see this little rubber nipple here, how it sticks through there. Don't know if you can see it very well with the lighting I've got, but that one's sticking through. You see the one down here, it's not. You just basically pull from the bottom, push from the bottom, and then wiggle the little nipple through on the top, and it'll pop into place. Just make sure those are in place on all 4 of your gaskets for the mounting bracket. Shot of those little nipples on the thing. You can see they're raised and they got a lip on top to allow you to pull it through the plastic on the mounting bracket so it'll hold those in place. Just a better shot, making sure all mine are in place and ready to go on the car. So it looks like I may have gotten it backwards. It looks like the front one is actually the longest and the rear one is actually shorter. So it kind of narrows at the back of the vehicle. And I guess I can see that from the shape of the CR-V. It gets a little narrow, it gets a little wider up here. But this is going to be so I can mount things up here and carry them. I'm getting ready to go to Home Depot and get some wood. It will not fit inside because the boards are too long. And also bought a kayak. Hopefully I can go kayaking and hit some gravel bars for some arrowhead hunting. So I'm getting ready to get this all tested out. One thing they said is to take these here and push them down. There may be a coating on the boats. I'm not 100% sure, but it said take them down for a little way, back them off, clean them out, and blow off the stuff on the inside of the boat and on the side of the screw, inside the screw, and then take it all the way down, clean it out, so make sure you get it clean all the way down. I think there's a coating on it that you need to take off. You do that on all 8 of the bolts and the screws. As you can see, this difference in the 2 screws after I screwed one all the way down. There is like a little coating on there. It'll clean up those threads and you should be good to go. Might have a little minor rusting, but the coating has kept the bolts pretty clean and rust free. But I'm going to do all 4 of them on this side and all 4 on the other side, and then start getting the bolts mounted in place. If you look closely down at the bottom of that screw there, you'll see, or the bolt, you'll see little shards of the stuff that was cut off of the threads. But yeah, that's what they want you to clean off so it goes on good. And one thing you don't want to do is you want to make sure your threads are going on smooth and easy, because if you get it cross threaded, they'll never go down. They'll never go down to the bottom. And at that point, you either have to have a threader. What do they call them? Basically, it cleans your threads. I have a little kit like that because I used to do a lot of work on different electrical equipment, panels and stuff, and some things would get cross-threaded, and you'd have to clean the threads on the thing and make them smooth and good again. But that's what they're talking about, cleaning that extra stuff off of there. So earlier I told you need to get the bolts, the nut to go on the boat all the way down. But as you can probably see, there's just a very little piece of the bolt sticking up through the hole there. The other thing I found out is there's an offset in the way they sit. So you have one sliding one on one side and one fixed bolt one on the other side. But if they're not lining up in the holes on the rooftop, you probably need to just rotate the bar 180, because there's an offset on the way they fit into the hole there. Once you get that right, and you'll just need to tap them down a little bit, and then tighten all the bolts down, the nuts on the bolts down, and then once you finish, don't forget to tighten the bolts under here where we left them loose a little bit, so they can slide and move around, so you can line them up properly. So once you got them bolted down, you got your little cover. It's got little pins here that go into this little side holes right here. They just pop in there. You just need to tap them down a little bit and get those lined up. Get that set on there pretty good. Make sure they tap down into the hole. You can use a rubber hammer. Couldn't find my rubber hammer. Need me a good toolbox because my tools are all over the place. But that's what's going on with that one. We're ready to do this one. We've tightened it all down. So get this lined up on this one. There. Got a nice little fit on there. All good to go. Now we just have to do the other side. Get those tightened down, get those lined up, and bolted into place, and we're all done. Then off to get some lumber for my wife's raised flower bed or vegetable bed she wants. Okay, so here's the finished product. There's a couple of recommendations I would make. This one isn't a Honda rack, so I had a little issues getting things to bolt down tightly inside here, bolting to the bolts that are inside. If the bolts were actually a little bit longer by Honda, you wouldn't have such a problem getting the nut to screw down on them, on the threads. But there probably could be a couple of modifications made from the manufacturer of the rack. This gasket here could probably be a little bit thinner. It doesn't have to be quite that thick, but they probably did that for some height. But also the through holes where the specialty nuts go on, they have a little area that stops the nut from going all the way down. The first thing I would do if you bought this one is drill those out, so you'll have more room to slide down over the threads with the specialty specialty nut. And like I said, this could have been a little bit thinner, this gasket, but I think they might do that for height on the distance from the roof, because I know I'm going to put a kayak rack on here, and the bolts on my kayak rack are pretty long. I'm probably going to have to cut them off a little bit because they'll probably be touching the roof, or close to touching the roof with the threads from the bolt on it. But it's pretty good looking rack, as you can see. But had one on my 2004 CRV, which I sold, and I bought it so I could have a kayak rack and also load some things on top. Right now I'm getting ready to go get some wood for my wife's raised vegetable garden, so she can get started on that, and hopefully everything will go good.